guys, and welcome to today's video where I am going to react to my first ever video, which happens to be a care guide, and I thought it would be good to not only react to it but also see how much my care has changed. It's kind of crazy, it has 175,000 views, like, oh goodness me. Things have changed a lot in 12 years. Yeah, because it'll be 12 years in October since I started this channel. I now have almost 1,000 videos, which is absolutely crazy. So let's just jump into this and see what has changed. Okay, firstly, just to say, the only thing I had to edit was the most basic Windows Movie Maker, hence this text. Okay, we're starting off with handling.
When it comes to handling your leopard gecko, it's very easy.
Okay, firstly, I have not edited this. This screen is this small, so I don't know what size this video was when I was making it. Secondly, that is Diego's enclosure at the time. I got Diego when he was about 6 months old, and here he's probably about a year old, so he's probably been living in here for a few months. But fortunately, soon after this, he does move into a vivarium.
They can be a little afraid. They might run away under their hide, like my one just did.
I love how that I've checked out the updated version. I don't think too much changes when it comes to handling. Leopard geckos generally are quite good at being handled, but let's see what else I say.
But they are fairly easy. I've never had one that has bit me picking them up or anything like that. You just scoop
anything like that. I don't know why my voice is higher either. It's not like I was a child or anything. I was like 18, 19 when I made this. I don't know why my voice is different, but maybe I was just a little bit nervous.
Pick them up like that. Make sure you support them, and never pick them up by the tail, because that will come off and it will grow back very horrible. Or
that was so mean. It will grow back very horrible. I mean, sometimes they look fine, but obviously they will look a bit different.
They might actually die from losing their tail if it gets infected or then below weight.
Yeah, I mean, if an animal gets an infection and it's left, they can die, but I don't think it's too common for geckos to lose their tail and then necessarily get infected and die. But this is just me criticising, like, me from the past.
They cling on with their little nails, but they don't hurt.
Okay, so that's handling. As I said, I don't think much has changed. Let's look at hides.
Now, when it comes to hides, I always use at least 2 hides. My other 2 geckos have a hide like this, a coconut hide in the cooler areas, and a box that the crickets come in with wet dirt, that's for shedding, but he seems to do quite well without that.
So in this enclosure right now, you can see there's probably not enough room for a 3rd hide anyway, hence why I don't usually use this, or I wouldn't recommend this for anything other than a hatchling, or maybe you're quarantining an animal. But yeah, back in the day I used to get a cricket box, cut an opening at the front of it, make sure it wasn't sharp or anything, put damp soil in there, and they would use that as a shed and hide. And actually the rough parts where the holes are put into the side of the cricket box, if you know what I'm talking about, it's a little bit rougher, so it would help them actually remove that skin. However, I haven't done that in years.
The hide for the warm area is, for all of mine, is like a log like this. They can get out either way. And for the cold area is this, and it's usually very closed off, and it's somewhere they can go if they're stressed or if they're shedding their skin, which, you know, they can get stressed about that.
Yeah, so it's good to have a hide that's completely dark and they can fully get away from it. If you're providing light especially, they can get completely away from light. I always like these sort of log hides over the heat mat though, because they can escape, so they feel a bit more secure. Now let's look at temperature. Oh, that fade.
When it comes to temperature, I just use a heat mat, and for a tank like this I stick it underneath. With a wooden vivarium, which I also have, I put inside the vivarium.
Now this kind of makes me cringe. I wonder if I'm going to tell you this in a video, but back then I didn't use a thermostat because the heat mat size that I got, that the breeder recommended at the time would max out at 30 to 32 degrees Celsius, which was ideal for a leopard gecko. And so you could kind of get away with not using a thermostat, although now, just me, maybe because I'm older, I'm more cautious, I would highly recommend a thermostat, whether you're using a heat mat, ceramic heater, it's a halogen, deep heat projector, whatever it is. You just want to make sure you can control that temperature. It's not going to get too hot or burn. The other thing is they used to be on a timer, so at night this would go off, but let's see if I mention that.
I don't have a thermostat.
Well done, Rebecca, I'm very honest.
Although, you know, in the future I might invest in one, but I've had my geckos for 5 years and they have never needed a thermostat. I have a timer, so the heat mat will come on early in the morning, go off late at night as it's winter.
Very long pause there. I didn't know how to edit back then, so I guess I just left that in.
And that seems to work really well. They've never overheated or underheated. It works really well.
I kind of wish if I was doing this now, I would 100% say, like, if I wasn't using it at the time because of the heat mat situation that it maxes out at the ideal temperature for leopard geckos, I would still recommend people use a thermostat because I don't want them to skimp out on it and then they get a more powerful heat mat and then their gecko ends up burning. But very fortunately that never happened with me.
Wow, so you can try that, but a thermostat would be more specific. Also, don't bother with lights or night lights or anything like that. If anything, it causes more stress on the gecko and it wastes a lot of your money and there's no use to it.
Oh my god, you can hear my sister in the background. I don't know if you picked up on that. So that made me laugh because now, like, my care has changed so much. I actually did a video on this channel where I was talking about all the reasons UV is bad, and yet now I use UV, I have an LED, I have an overhead heater. I've even thought about using a halogen heater for my leopard geckos. But this, as I said, was 11-12 years ago. And the great thing about the reptile hobby, and the more you learn, if you're always progressing and you can look back at your old care like this and kind of cringe, it's probably a positive because you've changed and evolved your care. And my goodness, from just looking at Diego's tank here, things have changed a lot.
So, heat mat, as you can see under there, will do fine, and it doesn't even have to be a big one, especially for a tank like this, because I don't need it.
Now for substrate. Oh god. Okay, so no, I'm gonna let myself carry on 1 sec.
When it comes to substrate, I know a lot of people use calcium sand or normal sand, or even wooden chips, but I really don't think they're good.
I'm glad that even back then I was saying calcium sand isn't good. Specifically calcium sand because it's not even sand, it's just calcium. And was something at the time that was so popular that when I spoke out against it, my goodness, the hate that I got for that. I remember someone called me Eco-Earth Girl, I think in a derogatory way, and so the calcium sand people did not like Eco-Earth Girl. It sounds like a really bad superhero situation. Now, Eco-Earth is something I used for a very long time without any issues, although I will say, when you use these bricks, like I'm using here, and you have to hydrate them with water, it takes forever to, like, get all that moisture out, so that was always a bit of an issue. However, now I use Earth Mix Arid, which wasn't around back then. I know a lot of people use topsoil and play sand, or like the Biodude has a substrate. Cocoa fibre people will still use. I don't tend to use it anymore.
Sand can get easily impacted, and for wood chips, I've spoke to a vet and they said do not do that because they can actually pierce the gullet.
Yeah, so I remember talking to this vet and he said that some people's leopard geckos were launching at food, and because of the wood chips at the time at least, I don't know if it's different now, but like they were like launching at the food and then catching their gullets of their throat, like getting pierced. So at least back then you did not want wood chips, and also anything like that that's sort of small enough for your gecko to accidentally eat. Something solid like that you don't really want to be messing with,
and obviously that will kill the gecko, so do not do that. What I always use, and have used for the last 5, nearly 6 years, is Eco-Earth. It's like you normally get about 3 chunky blocks, and
at the time, sorry, I feel like I'm going to waffle on about EcoEarth, which, as I said, I don't use anymore, but at the time, I remember the blocks being £9 for 3, so they were £3 each, and I would use half a block per gecko and change it every 6 months. So the whole year for Substrate cost me £3. I don't know if that's the price anymore, but as I said, I know people do still use EcoEarth, and that's fine, and I think sometimes that's partly because of my videos at the time, but I have moved on since then. That's the thing, like, if you're getting into leopard gecko or reptile care in general, what you start off with now, in a few years time you'll probably cringe at, but that's a good thing. That means you're changing and evolving, and that's what we love to see. So anyway, I hope you've liked this video. Maybe I'll react to another one in the future. Let me know in the comments below, but thanks for watching, guys, and goodbye.